The stream is starting to go out. Let me just tweet on the announcement. All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Adventure on So Many Levels. We're going to play some Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah!
We are now, after a couple of weeks of one-shots, going to finally be returning to our main campaign. Although the intent was to do so with all of our regular players. Unfortunately, both Viv and Nutty are going to be missing in action tonight, after all. I think, though, for now, we're just going to have their player, we're not doing anything unusual with their characters. They're just going to probably be a little bit more in the background this week.
Well, yes, I will accept your money. Thank you very much. All of these extra items and things, I don't know how to thank you.
So, I'm Christiana Ellis. I'm the Dungeon Master, and our players that we do have here with us tonight are Mark Kilfoyle as Alaric.
Good evening and welcome.
Starla Hutchton as Nirakina Ethu.
Greetings and salutations.
Chooch Schubert as Otterkey.
Hello.
And with the party currently, we also have normal party member Amethyst, your human druid companion. You also have these
abnormal party member.
you also have your quote ugly ally, the stone giant Granis, who is with you. You also have the young dragonborn Doke, who is the son of the proprietors of a magic shop, who is accompanying you as translator, and also the employee of the magic shop, Deke, who had been depetrified. So where we left things is that you had defeated the Dreamwalker, who had started all of this mess and leading the stone giants into becoming petrified, but unfortunately defeating her did not return the stone giants to their natural form. There is still a powerful magic at work, and it is keeping them petrified. You also discovered that the stone giant's patron spirit is in fact a spirit imprisoned within a giant stone statue and controlled by a magic control rod. You don't really know how that came to be, only that that's what's happening now. You were resting up in order to be better able to deal with the stone giants and whatever magic may be required there, but detected that there were some mercenary scavengers in the city looking to loot it of its treasures. And there was a confrontation that was verbal at first, but unfortunately it turned suddenly violent when this strange, creepy little halfling that they had with them read Alaric's mind, presumably to detect your good intentions, but instead saw something that led her to demand that everybody kill each other. So you fought off the mercenaries, were victorious, and perhaps a little extra stink on it there, because you not only killed everyone standing there, with the exception of knocking the warlock halfling unconscious, but Archie and Nira actually chased down a couple of fleeing mercenaries, and
hey, I didn't chase. I didn't have to move.
Split hairs all you want there. But regardless, after this particular fight, your companion Doke was shaken by the violence in a way that he hadn't really been after the dragon fight, and Granis had also expressed some reservations about not allowing the fleeing ones to get away. But that's pretty much where we left things. You have this unconscious and now tied up halfling with she is an ancient halfling in disheveled robes with skull makeup on her face that has not been very well maintained, so it's kind of worn away in places and sort of sloppy. But she was knocked unconscious, tied hand and foot, and unconscious with you. And that's where you're all standing now, next to the partially butchered cave dragon remains. Lots of dead mercenaries all around you.
Can somebody remind me why we just tied up the evil little halfling that wants to kill us?
She knows something. She's got some sort of information. Something drove her to be very, very angry with us, and I want to know what it is. Maybe it'll help solve some of the questions we've been lingering over. Besides, didn't really want to kill anybody.
She's the one that started this fight.
Which means she knows the most of all of them.
I'm gonna leave you to it.
In the meantime, after the last kind of conversation you'd had with Doak, Deke had kind of come over to talk to him and sort of pulled him aside a little bit, and so they were just sort of having their own conversation off to the side.
We should tend to these dead, though. Grannis, to you, I don't know what your burial customs are. If there's somewhere small folk are buried, maybe we should do that.
She says, stone giants are interred in the rock, but that's the custom for stone giants. We usually let small folk handle their own arrangements, so we don't really have something that we do for it. But I know that some of the small folk who live in the city have plots that they've dug out in the plateau.
Yeah. We should see that when we can. For the moment, at least. I don't know. Yarakina, you're more of the type that might know something about treating the dead. In practice, I've had much to do other than those who died in the cave, and there wasn't much chance to do much for them.
Well, where I'm from, our practice is to return them to the mountain, much like Grannis, but...
What's that actually look like?
We have stone. I'm trying to think. I think you would call them mausoleums, set into the mountain under the main temple.
Well, I don't think we'd do too well to bury folks in people's backyards if we do hope to free them from there.
Well, there are some cultures that I believe do funeral pyres.
I've heard of that.
Yeah.
Well, that would make it cleaner anyway.
Well, we could just kind of leave them and get on with our very important business.
Well, I don't want to attract any more creatures and critters. They're coming up here.
That's a good point.
At this point, Deke, this half-orc employee of the magic shop, kind of comes over and just says, just want to let you know that I don't exactly think that these folks here would have had much in the way of families or anything back in the city, but if they did have anyone who was expecting them back or returning, then they might send others to look for them unless you send word of some kind.
Well, not too much chance of that, I'm afraid. I mean, for one thing, sending word probably means us going back anyway. As for Captain Cassius, the Golden Locusts, that was it. I mean, we can look up the Locusts and tell them they're mercenaries, have foolishly thrown themselves up against a wall. may or may not care. Mercenary companies know that when they send people out, it's not necessarily ever going to come back. Still, we could... I don't know the rest of their names. We could say that Captain Cassius's company needs to pass on their best, I suppose.
Also, and he kind of looks over his shoulder back to where Doak is talking with Granis, and he just kind of leans in and says, "Listen, I don't know you all, so I don't want to presume to make any assumptions on, your background or why you make various decisions that you make, but I do know Doak, and my guess is if you've traveled with him for a while, you know he's a good kid. And I hope that you don't take the stuff he was saying quite too personally. I think I was just chatting with him. That was the first person he's ever killed. And I think he was kind of already rattled about it when you guys chased down the others. And I think he's projecting a bit."
It's not an easy thing. That's not what your plan is in life.
Very true.
He's been a bit sheltered for the better for most of his life, I suspect.
To be honest, I've always kind of sided with his moms on the idea that I'm not sure being an adventurer is really what's best for him, but just the same, I kind of felt like he needed to see it for himself, and I don't know, maybe he has.
It does take the shine off of the story.
I think he would be, it's definitely safer to stay home sometimes.
For all sorts of reasons.
Well, maybe this will serve a good purpose and get his, and he'll have lost the taste for it. I think his moms would be happy with that.
Yeah, that'll be an argument I don't want to have.
Well, obviously he's grown now. If still young, he can make his own decisions. But I guess I just wanted to let you know that he does still look up to you all. It's just he's confused. I think he just didn't really anticipate this level of complexity.
Mm-hmm.
You can't really can't tell a kid that, right? They kind of have to just see it.
It's very true.
No?
All right.
So, if you don't mind me asking, again, I don't want to presume anything. You guys saved my life and the others there, and I'm very grateful. So I don't want to presume anything. But if you don't mind, what is your plan here exactly?
You don't know us very well. You wouldn't ask.
Well, I think we were going to seek some guidance from Doak's mothers regarding dispelling this magic circle, how to get rid of it. I don't like to tamper with magics without fully understanding them.
Well, let me tell you, working as a non-magic user in a magic shop, I can personally vouch for that approach. Don't mess with it if you don't know what it does. That's just my own take on it, but then again, I'm not skilled in those particular areas.
Sound advice when you have a choice.
Yeah,
So-
the world doesn't really come with much of a manual.
I'm trying to remember. Didn't Doak ask? Like there was something about, because I had typed out a message, but I think it already got sent. Like we asked them about it. I'm
Right.
trying to
Just as a
remember.
recap from last time, Doak had received a message from his mom's checking in and saying that there was some weird guy who had come asking for you guys at the shop and was hanging around. And he was kind of caught off guard, but managed to convey the gist of the situation, that the stone giants had all been petrified and there was some sort of a magic circle causing it. But that was the reply of the spell, so he didn't get any answer after that.
Okay, so I think I'm going to have to call them again. So I'm.
It was the better part of a day's travel, wasn't it, to get back?
It was
Right.
like 6 hours.
Well, yeah.
But I have sending, so I can just ask them, and hope we get the reply. Maybe they've had enough time to think about it. Okay. So if I don't know if you guys want to clean up here, you know,
Sure.
and I'll go do this. Let me see
Yeah.
if I still have
Good
this.
stuff.
He kind of looks down at the bound halfling and just kind of says, so she's presumably going to wake up at some point.
Should make sure she has a gag. Magic people seem to not, like to talk. Magic.
It's gagged, right?
Well, right now she was tied. You didn't previously say that you wanted a gag on her. You could put a gag on her.
I think it'd be good. Let her talk when we need her to talk. Watch over her if you can, Deke. I don't imagine she'll go too far, but she'll be pretty angry anyway. She was pretty angry before.
You know, I'll tell you, I don't even want to stand next to her. I'll watch her from a few feet away if you don't mind. She's just something about her just gives me the creeps.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
She's probably pretty powerful. in her own way. Maybe lost, I don't know. But I'm hoping there's something there we can talk to.
Okay. So,
So, sorry, I did you guys decide on something for the bodies? You kind of said clean up, but
Yeah, I think that pile.
Archie's gonna start putting them in a pile to burn them.
Yeah. We'll go through their pockets. But that's only practical.
well, I think Nira searched their pockets last time, and
Yeah.
they really didn't have much on them.
No.
Which kind of makes sense if you think about it. It's a mercenary company who is essentially going into a potentially dangerous situation. They're not bringing all their valuables with them. The only thing that probably would have been worth any serious money is actually the plate armor that the leader was wearing, but that got crushed during the fight.
All right then, with their full regalia.
He does have a great sword, and there's the pikes that are, in still reasonable shape.
We can collect those. We might have use for those.
Crossbows.
Those two and bolts. Those would be actually much more useful.
Mm-hmm.
But the pikes could serve other uses. That sword, it's too big for me, but you have your own sword, fancy sword, right, Otterkey?
Yep. Indeed.
Well, maybe we can use it to prop open a door.
all right. So I have a message that I'm going to send. Do I know like a approximate diameter of the circle?
Still have the map. Let's see. So about 60 feet. About 60 feet in diameter.
Okay. I want to give them as much information as I can about it in a condensed way. So,
Okay.
because I can't. I personally cannot describe the glyphs because I'm not actually looking at them. So, so here is what I have. So this is what I'm going to send because I don't have anything better. So,
Okay. Well, first,
I'll say-
who are you sending it to? Sorry, I keep cutting you off.
Carrot is Kara, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, she's the one that we've dealt with most. So, okay. So here's my message. All safe. 60-foot magic circle petrifying giants. Possibly controls depetrification also. Dispelling harmful or useless? Good question. Request advice. And that's it.
Okay. Let me think. All right. I'm just trying to think what she would say in 25 words because that's always the trick, right?
Yeah. I put that together like 3 weeks ago. So it's
Right.
it.
I think what you get back is, well, I'd have to see it. Probably dispelling would do the trick, but it might be difficult, and if it goes wrong, could be bad. So might be best to wait.
Well, I can't send anything back unless I want to cast it again. But so it looks like we can't deliver this immovable rod and get her the money until these people are depetrified. So,
Well, the rod's just holding up the reflector, right? We could build something to replace it.
Well, and Amethyst, I think, would remind you that you guys were pretty sure that that Greater Restoration would perhaps let you depetrify them at
Right.
least one-on-one, like one at a time. So you could potentially do. You had
Okay.
you had talked about potentially depetrifying the Stone Giant Cleric.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Granis, could you help me search for this for the stone cleric? Because if I can help, if anybody can help, I think it is probably her. And I can only do this so many times. So I think that's the most efficient use.
Okay, I'll help
magic.
you find the cleric. She's the one that has the fancy robes and the eye that kind of goes like this. You know, the opposite direction of mine.
That might be hard to tell when they're petrified. So another set of eyes would be helpful.
Sure.
All right.
So we still have
is-
to relight the
Oh yeah.
beacon, right?
Yes.
There is rubble around, right? We could build a new platform for the reflector.
Instead of using the rod, you mean?
Well, the rod could be turned off. Someone could run in and take it. We might have other uses as well. A little more permanent solution might not be a bad idea.
If it's as expensive as you say, someone could take it. I mean, you know, you killed all of these, but there might be more.
Yeah, especially if rumor starts getting around that this city's abandoned. Just worried about that.
True.
Archie, do you still have daylight? That was the one, right? That we used
Yeah.
before?
Yeah.
That is the one, and I believe if I have
Um,
slots, I still have it.
Also, just as a
Balance.
note, Amethyst can cast Greater Restoration, but used her 5th level spell slots already.
Yeah, I
Okay.
still have one left.
She does have her 6th level
Daylight.
spell slot, so she could cast it using that instead.
I've got 2 slots open, so I can do daylight twice.
Okay, well, I think once should maybe do it, and this cleric might know how to relight it more permanently,
Mm-hmm.
or know who would know.
There's a window in it.
All right, Archie, do you want to head to the tower and relight the beacon?
Yeah. Sure.
I know that sometimes you've given us a bit of additional, whatever, when we were risking a bit.
Mhm.
If someone's going to go in near that circle, it might be good if they can be given a bit of extra oomph to resist.
Right.
Does guidance work on that? Because then I can just boot myself.
Guidance, I think, works on ability checks, but not saving
I think
throws.
blessed is the level you're looking for.
Bless
Yeah, I
works
think
on
the only-
attack rolls.
The only thing I currently have enabled is my just innate ability, my innate aura.
Yeah, if you guys stay within 10 feet of Archie, you get a bonus
Yeah.
to saving throws.
Blessed is attack and saving throws.
But I don't have it.
I don't have anything. I think it'll be fine. Like, I don't think anybody's going to be forcing us into the circle
Even going anywhere near
or volunteering to go in this time. I think it'll be fine.
Right. Amethyst says, oh, never mind. That wouldn't work. There was a spell that I thought might protect against being petrified, but it only protects against being paralyzed. Never mind.
All right. Well, shall we?
So,
Yeah.
I think as you guys are preparing to do all of that, Deke is probably looking down at the halfling and just saying, "So you want me to just like yell out if she wakes up or something?"
That's probably.
That wasn't his voice. You're talking more like this.
So
Yeah.
I'm going to stay here while Archie goes to relight the beacon because I don't necessarily need everybody to go, and somebody needs to stay behind to, one, watch the immovable rod.
Yeah, I'll be up here.
All right.
I'll head to the beacon.
All right. So you make your way back to the beacon tower. It's not too far. Everything's pretty quiet. You hear the wind outside, but nothing. No violent storms like the night before. You make your way back up those giant stairs and reach the peak of the tower where the restored crystal awaits you.
All right. It's within 60 feet, I think, so. Guess I just don't need to get any closer than I have to. Light it back up.
All right.
Or continue to light it.
Yep. So once again, you light it as you have before, and once again, for all of you, the reflected light coming from the crystal in this tower illuminates the entire interior of the cave. There had been some light coming from outside because it's day now, but it's now much easier to see throughout the interior of the cavern, and there's not the same deep, dark shadows, from every building that was blocking the cave wall. So you can now see everything really clearly because it's brightly lit.
I can see clearly. Great. So I'll start walking back.
All right.
Well, there it goes. Granis, shall we?
Okay. I think Amethyst will point out, should we have figured out something to do to hold up the reflector before we cast the spell that only lasts an hour?
It's going to take longer than that to try to build something, but I'll try to survey it. I do have a masonry background. I think I do.
Yeah.
That's what I did for a while.
All right, make an intelligence check. With advantage, because it's stonework.
Intelligence. Oop, can't roll inside the box. Ooh, that's terrible.
Oh no.
That is a 7.
You're not sure because obviously what was there previously was what looks like a single piece column specifically for that purpose. You don't really know where you would find the materials or tools to make it be just right. It would probably take a long time.
All right, well.
Many hours at
power
least.
off. That's about all I can suggest.
And Granna says, "Well, I can hold it, but not forever."
Yeah, I figured that would be.
Isn't the immovable rod there still?
It is, but it's just a question of if you
Oh.
wanted to just leave it there, where someone theoretically could just take it.
Well, let's wake up the cleric. We'll figure that part out later.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So the once again with the as soon as the beacon is lit, really this light reflects into the story statue, casting the shadows across the wall and revealing the vault door, which opens.
Head inside.
All right. So as with the last time that you had been in this chamber, you see the glowing green of the runes in this enormous stone circle. The runes are magical, but using the giant characters, the characters of the giant language. And around this enormous chamber, you see the seated stone figures of all the stone giants, and you see on the far side of the room the shattered throne the partially crushed body of Calcifa, and of course, looming over it all, the enormous 40-foot statue that contains the spirit.
All right. Well, steering clear of the magic circle, I'm going to start looking for the person in robes.
I'll say because it doesn't take too long. You guys, you are able to find what Grannis points out. It says this is her. I was right. She's next to the Thane.
All right. Well, then I am going to cast Greater Restoration.
All right. So as you approach this statue, and even seated, it still, towers over you. But you reach out your hand and channel Rushama's divine magical energy into the statue. And slowly you see the gray color fading, mostly just on the clothes, because of course the stone giant's skin is naturally gray, similar color to the rock, but becomes softer, starts to move, and slowly you see the figure take a breath. Still sitting, eyes still closed. But then, a voice saying, "Interesting."
How do you feel? Are you all right?
I am well. The eyes open and the face looks down at you and then up around, seeing the rest of you, including Grannis, and the eyes go wide a little bit. And then just looking around the room, seeing the statue, seeing everyone else in stone, and says, "Oh dear."
We need your help.
Yeah.
Your people need your help.
It would appear that you are correct. Oh, and she starts to move to stand up, but kind of hand goes to her back, just like, ugh.
Slowly. It's been a while.
How long?
3 weeks, I believe.
It was around 2 weeks since they closed into the vault. They the 3 weeks was when they kind of stopped going out. But yeah, so
2 weeks.
She just, someone's knocking down further down my hallway. She just says, "Well, all things considered, I suppose it could have been much longer than that." Grannis, are you responsible for bringing these small folk here? And she says, "Well, kind of. They were coming anyway, but I helped them. Calcifa tricked everyone." And the cleric looks over, and she's kind of getting up to one knee and looks over and sees Calcifa's body and just says, "Whatever magic she possessed, it was powerful."
It truly was.
There's no way everybody could have been freed without Grannis here.
Then we owe you a great debt, Grannis, and the rest of you. But I can feel the circle's energy sapping my strength even as we stand here. Perhaps there's a more comfortable place to speak.
Absolutely. So.
And as she kind of gets to her feet, she's hobbling a little bit, walking kind of stiffly like an old person, but given that she's 25 feet tall, she's still easily able to outpace you guys unless you're sprinting. So she leads you back out to the vault door, and I think she stops as she exits it, looking out at the deserted city, and just looks a little crestfallen. You, and she points to you, Nira. Was it greater restoration?
It was.
I suspected. It is a spell I can cast myself. Ordinarily, I feel somewhat depleted at the moment.
We had Granus had the smaller ones that were imprisoned with the petrification. When they were released, they were very groggy and hardly able to even really speak much at all. So that you can do that much is sort of a miracle.
Well, I hope that you will not take offense when I say that your race is not accustomed to the stillness of stone.
No offense taken.
For stone giants, when meditating, we attempt to evoke within ourselves the stillness of the stone. It is a more familiar sensation, I think.
Well, I have one question that I hope you can answer. Calcifa had this, and I bring out the rod, and I'm not entirely sure of its purpose, but I believe it controls your spirit.
She kind of, holds out her hand, and I mean, it's big, but she, the rod is big too, but it's like holding in her hand, it's almost like wand sized. And do you give it over to her?
Yes, doesn't belong to me.
She looks
I don't know how to use it anyway.
Right. She looks at it with sort of a puzzled expression. What do you mean she controlled the spirit?
I believe that she used this to the large stone statue. There's a spirit imprisoned within it, and I believe she used this rod to control its movements.
Like a golem?
She used it to attack us, but I don't know if it has other purposes.
She turns and looks back over her shoulder, kind of through this vault doorway at the statue, and her shoulders kind of sag, and she just sighs. Thank you for telling me. I'm sorry that our troubles were something that you had to deal with.
That's sort of what we do. It's a long story.
What does bring you here? Grannis mentioned that you were coming anyway.
Well, what brought us here originally, we were trying to make a delivery.
Trying to fulfill a contract.
So I'm going to point it where the reflector is. That immovable rod was ordered by someone here, and no one ever arrived to claim it or make payment for it. So we were coming here to make that delivery in the exchange.
Yes, the Thane ordered it. It was to be a prized possession used for special ceremonies, but once we were under the thrall of Calcifa's magic, it no longer seemed important. I apologize. Was it the proprietors of the magic shop that sent you?
We volunteered to come, but yes, it was them. Our companion here, Doak, this is their son.
He kind of just waves. And the cleric kind of nods to herself and says, I can see that you are paid from the treasury. The Thane, of course, once I wake her, will not question this. So, if you feel that you must complete your job and move on, I can see that you are paid.
We kind of look at Archie and Granis, and is there anything else we can do to help?
Yeah, I think we yeah. We're certainly not going to leave you vulnerable here. We want to help as much as we can.
I don't know what it will take. There are some problems here, larger even than I thought. If it's simply a matter of unpetrifying the citizens, I could cast the spell as you did for me, but twice per day at the most. And of course there are more than 100 giants within. It will take time for us to depetrify them all, unless there can be a way found to
Well, that
release them all at once.
That magic circle seems to control the petrification, and I believe Calcifa also used it in some way to depetrify. I noticed when she released the smaller of the captives that it flared up before they became flesh again.
And she nods and says, I have a hazy recollection of the circle's construction during the vault. It is powerful magic. I believe that it could be dispelled, but only by a magic user more powerful than myself. The energy involved is substantial.
Do you know any such? Can we send for somebody, or
Ordinarily,
can we take word somewhere?
well, I will confess I am not accustomed to relying on small folk for assistance in any way.
Certainly.
Ordinarily, this would be something where multiple of our kind would work together. That is, in fact, how the circle was constructed in the first place. But I am not accustomed to being alone, or with only another, and nodding over to Granis. It is not something... The lack of a community support is unusual. But you have done us a great service. In releasing me, you have given us a way to return. It will take time, and I don't want you to feel any obligation towards us. We will ensure that you are rewarded already. Make an insight check, you guys.
Oh,
I can have Amethyst make one too.
15.
Okay. Amethyst actually gets a 20.
13.
Right. I think Amethyst leans over to you, Nira, and says, there's something she's not telling us.
Okay. I've got my ring.
Okay.
So I'm going to use that to cast a very surface detection.
Okay. Just Just trying to remember exactly.
Just detect thoughts.
Does she make a saving throw first, or you don't, or just to get surface
I think
thoughts?
it's only to probe deeper you have to do it. Say,
Yeah.
Okay.
Just surface thoughts.
All right.
Because I don't want her to know that I'm doing it.
Right. So you kind of fiddle with your ring, but it doesn't require anything more than that for now. So you feel, the awareness of the minds around you kind of enter your thoughts, and as you focus on the cleric, what you get first and foremost is kind of a profound sadness, but not about the petrified stone giants, because she's already kind of thinking about how to bring them back, even if it'll be slow. But she's really upset and saddened by something.
Are you sure there's nothing else that we can help you with? Anything at all? It seems like something's bothering you. More than the obvious.
Make a persuasion roll.
That is a 16.
Okay. She kind of hesitates and then looks down at the rod again and just asks, "Did Calcifa tell you anything about this rod? Did she say anything about it?"
She didn't. I discerned what I could about it. She wasn't very keen on... Well, I didn't really know anything about it, to be completely honest. And it didn't come up in the short conversation that we had with her.
Yet you know that it's used to control the spirit?
I'm trying... Did I think...
You basically used your magnifying glass on it.
Yeah.
And then also kind of had your additional conversation with Rishama about it.
Mm-hmm. In the time that I had with it, I was able to discern certain things about it, along with a little bit of insight from my own personal deity, not your spirit. So, did you know?
What do you know of our spirit and our ways? What have you been told?
Overall, it's a spirit associated with being still and peaceful. But aside from that, there are not too many details. I know it is the opposite of what other spirits roam this portion of the land. I had a small encounter with one of those as well. And it's the exact opposite of that wild thing. It's imprisoned in a way.
She's nodding kind of along until you say imprisoned, and then she kind of flinches a little bit and then just says, You have much of it, correct. But I would add that it is not so much a matter of stillness only, but of patience, of waiting to act until the proper time. Our history, going back many, many generations, tell that the spirit will protect the stone giants when it is time, when it is necessary, and that in the meantime it reserves its strength. It does not act until it is time to act. That is what we have always been taught. That the statue is where the spirit resided, waiting until the time came to protect the stone giants from the threat that only it could defend us against. But it has moved. And you tell me that this rod controlled it, imprisoned it in that statue.
I didn't know that you weren't aware. I'm sorry. It's not it's not something anybody should have to find out, but this is not. I'm sorry.
I've seen this rod before. It belonged to the Thane. It was an artifact of our history and was passed down from one Thane to the next over hundreds and hundreds of years. Never permitted for anyone else to so much as touch it. I suspect that Calcifer, upon petrifying the rest of us, discovered it and its purpose, its apparent purpose. To think I can't claim to fully understand what this means, and yet when you speak the word imprisoned, it feels true in my heart, and yet it goes against everything we've always been taught about the spirit. Was it still because of its choice, or because it was forced to be?
That I can't answer. I'm not sure who can, if anyone can.
Well, we have to free it and find out.
I think
Nobody should be controlled like that. That's dismissless of spirit.
I don't know that I disagree, but it is also without understanding the history of what led to this situation. We have no way to know what the result would be upon freeing it. We would need to know more, I think. And I think the Thane would be the one to ask, if anyone.
Or the consequences of releasing that spirit.
Thing that's been controlling it. Well,
believe me,
I would ask.
I'm as much of an advocate of choice as you are, but this is something that we need more information about, I think, and I don't have it.
Incidentally, I think Grannis had heard some of what you guys had been saying about the statue already, and obviously she saw it moving herself. But I think I think that she had, you get the impression that she had thought waking up the cleric would just explain the confusing things about what was happening. Mm-hmm. But to see the cleric so shocked by it, I think she's reeling a little bit. And the cleric just looks down at you and says, "This is obviously something that is very sensitive to our people. And it is something we will have to discuss as a people. It is not our way to rush to the judgment of things, even if that lesson was reinforced by a deception. I still believe it. I would ask that you not share this information with anyone outside of the city.
It's not my information to share.
Thank you. So, you have certainly helped the Stone Giants this day, and I would see you not only paid for the delivery according to the original contract, but rewarded beyond that. You have clearly risked yourself to help us, and that is something that is not what we are accustomed to. And if you would choose to stay and help us further, this is something I believe would be appreciated further, but I hope that you will feel no additional obligation to do so. You have already done a great deal for us.
I think we could certainly stay a day or two and prioritize those who could most help you.
And I have the same limitation as you do on with greater restoration. But I'll do what I can to help you.
Twice as many at a time, right?
Indeed, indeed. I am somewhat undecided on the priority, because ordinarily I would think that the Thane would be the first to wake, if for no other reason than for her to help make the additional decisions, but I will confess that as I stand here now, I feel less than entirely charitable feelings towards her.
It could be that she didn't understand the true purpose of it either.
True.
It is true that, as far as I know, she has never used it to control the spirit. Perhaps in a way, this knowledge is a burden. Can the spirit be freed? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how I would. And if it cannot, perhaps better to have it remain still than to be used to serve another.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the choice is really yours on how we proceed. Because we don't know. Are there others that could help in the restoration?
I don't believe so. I have some assistants who have some measure of spiritual magic, but not powerful enough to cast greater restoration. So, I believe that do you know of anyone who would perhaps be powerful enough to dispel the circle?
I can only think of one person who might.
I detect a tone.
Not the greatest, best history, but reliable.
She's not really my favorite. Is she reliable, really?
Powerful?
That I will give you. But I can't think of any other options. Do you want me to call her, or should we wait for, or should I speak to Carrot again?
If you have reservations, it would be perhaps best to wait. I would
thing I
say that
wouldn't-
there is no urgency beyond whatever other business you may feel necessary.
The thing that would concern me is what you hold in your hand. I wouldn't trust her with that knowledge.
I understand. I'm not quite sure I trust myself with it.
But that stone statue is very out of place, and it might make her ask questions. It's because it's in an odd place, in an odd pose, and I don't know how much of the spiritual she can detect in the way that I can.
Incidentally, I think you're probably getting close to your hour of the daylight.
Oh. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that brings up another question.
Yeah.
The beacon. There's a small problem. That door's not going to stay open very much longer.
What do you mean?
The crystal was damaged.
I think Grannis raises her hand and says, "Yeah, sorry, I did that. I was mad."
The shape of it was restored, but the enchantment on it, it's only a temporary fix that were able to do.
How did the cavern open? Was it a slidey thing?
I mean, it was
Or a
basically,
magical thing?
yeah. Well, it was sort of a magic door, but it was basically multiple layers that kind of folded back.
Ah,
But she kind of just frowns and walks over to the side of the doorway on the inside, and you don't notice like any specific marking or visual indicator of where she puts her hand, but as she places her hand on the side, you hear the door sort of and settle a little bit. It will
Wow.
stay open now.
Well, that's convenient.
Gotta remember to investigate. That's handy.
I'm glad I could help with something. Incidentally, I think as you guys are sort of over close by the doorway, you kind of you hear a voice kind of echoing through the corridors, like, "Hello, you guys here? Where are you? Where's this magic circle you're talking about?"
Oh,
Oh, it's Carrot.
that was quick.
Through here.
Excellent.
Yeah, the cleric's like, "Friend of yours?"
She might be
Indeed,
She might be able to help. This is Doke's mother. One of them.
the crafters of the fine.
Yeah. Doke
Fine
runs
item we
runs
wanted.
off to like greet her and bring her over.
You may want to put that item away, just in case.
She holds it behind her back. No, I'm kidding. She kind of opens her robes and sort of slips it into some interior pocket. So after a while, you see Doke make his way back in with Carrot, and you see that she is wearing basically some sort of fancy boots that just sort of like, they almost gleam like with a mirror shine to them, and they're just they're actually smoking just a little bit. And she just kind of comes on in and just like, "Wow, this place is in a state."
Yeah, there was a bit of a ruckus.
That's
So,
one way to put it.
She kind of looks up at Granis and the cleric and just says, "Hello, I'm Carrot. I run the Carrot and Stick. It appears that you have gotten yourself a little bit of a magic circle problem." And cleric's just like gestures is like, "Yep, it's in there."
We're guessing this is the thing that did all the petrifying here, but we don't really. That's not our specialty.
Mm-hmm.
I think it may have some. It may be able to control the petrification, turn it on and off, but this is not my area.
Mm-hmm. So she first kind of walks through the doorway, and you see her kind of just like sticking her hand in and sort of feeling, and kind of leans her head in and sniffs. Yeah, okay. And then she kind of makes her way in. And if you guys are watching, you basically watch her doing a fairly bizarre series of just kind of hopping around, sort of feeling out. She's obviously kind of trying to get a sense of the magical field around this thing. As she kind of gradually moves closer to it, getting a sense, occasionally like starting to take a step forward, then backing up, taking 2 steps to the left and moving forward again. And as she gets a little closer, and she just goes, oh yeah, well, yeah, I can see the problem here. Yeah, this is definitely a doozy. Well, okay, here's what I can do for you. I brought a dispelling artifact. It's pretty powerful. I think it might just do the trick here. However, as much as I would love to help you all, I'm afraid that this particular artifact does have a limited number of charges, and they are extremely valuable, and I'm afraid that I cannot possibly do this for free.
That's their business, yeah.
And so I think if you guys just sort of leave it to that, maybe the cleric just kind of walks over there and just starts kind of like, you can kind of overhear from a distance sort of a little bit of haggling, because it's kind of comes down to, it's like, well, I could just wait and do greater restoration 1 or 2 at a time. We don't have to do it all at once. It's like, yeah, well, but that's going to take a lot of time, and then you don't have your spell slots for anything else, and plus, like, what are you going to do with just like 4 or 5 people around, and they're having this whole conversation, and they eventually work it out. And as you see, that they have come to some sort of an arrangement, and Carrot reaches into her backpack and kind of pulls out essentially what looked like a pair of really old-fashioned, like, scissors or shears, like you might shear a sheep with, but big and kind of they're golden and just sort of glitter a little bit. And she just kind of kneels down by the side, and you see that even though the magic circle is engraved in the floor, somehow she's able to wedge one of the blades of the scissors underneath it and pull it up and then cut it just like a thread, and then it just unravels and stops. And she says, Yeah, that ought to do it. They're probably all gonna come around. I'd say in the next couple of hours. It's gonna be a slow process, of course, unless you give it goose with the restorative magic. But this is gonna stop them repetrifying. You're not gonna have a problem in this room anymore, and they'll come around eventually. It's not a problem. I'm obviously you can wait until you are fully satisfied with the results before you pay. But it's. I'm happy to be of service. I'm glad that we could come to an arrangement.
Nice.
Happy we didn't have to call Melicanth.
And I think over by Granis, Doak kind of like nudges her in the knee and says, "That's my mom."
So while you're here, I was just wondering, is there anything from a cave dragon that you might find useful?
Oh, was that what that thing was coming on in?
Yeah, it's a bit of a mess, but yeah.
Yeah, I will say I don't often work with the animal parts like the gooey bits. Like that's often like an alchemist's business. Now, that said, obviously, dragons, powerful magic. They do all sorts of things. So teeth, claws, skin, hide, all those sorts of things can be valuable to the right artificer.
All right. Well, is there anything in particular? I mean, you did come all the way up here. I would hate for you to leave.
Oh, I'm not leaving empty-handed.
You're not leaving empty-handed, no. But, little something extra.
From what I hear, you guys have solved my little delivery problem and gotten me a nice new commission. Plus, you've saved a bunch of my customers. So, I'm inclined to be generous.
Oh, that would be wonderful. And we are so glad that we could help you.
So, what am I being generous about exactly?
The cave dragon, not really. Well, I mean, when we get back, we would still wanted to discuss the magical items.
Yes, of course. Earlier, yeah, our original deal is absolutely on. It looks like I spoke with the cleric in there. It sounds like the delivery amount's going to be back on. So we don't have to deal with dirty our hands with the cash right now. If you follow me, it seems like we're square as far as that goes. So yeah, those magical items belong to you when we get back house.
Well, that's fantastic news. Well, mostly with the cave dragon, we weren't really sure what in particular would be useful. So,
well, I suspect you could find someone to buy just about whatever you could get off of that thing.
It's getting it back that's going to be the problem.
Well, that's the trick, isn't it?
If I could reduce it, but I don't have that ability. Is that something that Amethyst had when she leveled up? Did she get that yet?
No, you guys don't have that spell. Melicanth has it.
Of course she does. Well, yeah.
I think Carrot is going to kind of lean over and just say, also, when we get back, I kind of know how these things go, so I'm not too worried about it. But I will warn you that some of what I'm seeing around here, I think Stick's going to feel like you put Doke in a little too much danger. Just going to say she's a little overprotective.
Well, we're kind of hoping that he gets the bug is gone. Like we're hoping this cured him of that, so maybe he'll.
Well,
I mean, he's been great. He's been
more adventure lust could be a pretty good trade-off. Yeah.
Well, I know my son. I'm not sure it's going to go quite that easy, but we'll see. How about we not put a price on that, especially if it involved, endangering his physical person.
Certainly.
Anyway, looks like he's fine, so I'm not too worried about it personally. But just so you know, Stick can hold a grudge when these things, involve Doke.
Right. Well, we've done everything we can to keep him safe.
All right. She looks like she's thinking like, you're talking about you killed a cave dragon. All of this is going on. It seems like, but he's okay.
We didn't know what we were walking
like,
into.
She seems like she seems like she's kind of the no harm, no foul sort of attitude about it. So, I tell you, I do actually have to get back. We have some urgent business. I raced on down here just because it seemed like you guys were in a pinch. But, when you guys make your way on back, we'll have those magic items ready for you. Melicanth is kind of still hiding in her mansion because that guy I mentioned in my message to Doke, he's still hanging around and he's a little bit weird. If you don't mind me saying.
I was actually going to ask about that. Could you describe him? Did he leave a name? Anything?
Well, he's a high elf.
God.
I don't actually recall him giving his name. He didn't really make a lot of sense, if you don't mind me saying. I don't know. Maybe you'd get more useful information out of him, but he seemed to know y'all and showed up like he expected to find you at the magic shop. I don't know necessarily where he got that information. I didn't tell him nothing, but I told him I didn't know where you were. And he decided to hang out around outside anyway. Honestly, I might have tried to scare him off a little bit more, but he's kind of in a state. I felt sorry for him, honest.
Well, if it's who I think it is, he's nothing but trouble.
Well, now, who do you think it is? Because he seemed like he is definitely not having a good day.
It was someone when we went into town. He's drama.
All right, well, I'll take your word for it. You know who he is. You know where he is. If you don't want to see him when you get back, you might want to take the long way around, if you know what I mean.
Well, suppose we should at least see what he wants, but he's probably... he's intruded on my good graces once already, and not sure if it's the same person. I'm not sure that I care to repeat that, but
all right, well, up to you. So in the meantime, I got to get back. Let me chat with my son just a little bit before I go. I think he'll probably stay back with y'all, and you guys make your way on back whenever you can, and I'll have your goods all wrapped up and ready for you.
All right.
Wonderful.
And so she kind of goes off and chats with Doke a little bit, and he does, you're seeing this like without sound, right? Kind of in the distance, and he does a couple of the excited storytelling, and then a little bit of a sheepish kicking the dirt, and it's like, oh, and then he's embarrassed, but then he's waves goodbye, and then she disappears like a little dust trail behind her. And I think the cleric is just going, well, that was expensive, but worthwhile, I would say.
Well, I hope so.
Assuming that it does what she says, I have no reason to doubt her. Obviously, she said that she didn't need payment until we were happy with the results, and so I suppose we will gradually see them awaken. I think that I will keep the rod a secret until I am able to discuss it with the Thane. I understand you have expressed your opinions on wishing to free the spirit, and although that may be a desirable outcome, but I don't know how to accomplish it, and I don't feel comfortable sharing it with outsiders, if you understand.
Certainly. Yeah.
But you should know that there is another way to be. It's not completely untamed, and it's not captive. But there's middle ground. Just keep it in your thoughts.
I will. Clearly, this is, if nothing else, an example of how following the lesson of always waiting, always taking no action, nearly led us to ruin. And it was only the actions of outsiders and one of our more unconventional members, and looking over at Granis, is that was allowed us to be freed from that trap.
Sometimes there's a lot to be said for unconventionality.
Perhaps. I think she kind of goes back in and she's sort of pondering the statue a little bit. But then the light goes out, the beacon. It goes dark. But as promised, the vault door does not close. She's sort of locked it open.
Does Amethyst have? She does not have. Does she have a dark vision spell?
She has the goggles. The goggles.
She has the goggles. Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And,
But she has them for herself.
right.
Doak and I think Deke is half orc, which I believe does have dark vision, but Doak does not.
So
But it's not total darkness though, unless like if you're inside the vault, it's relatively dark because you're far inside the cavern. But there's still light coming from outside, so it's kind of dimly lit with some deep shadows here and there.
Is anybody still outside with the tied up halfling?
Deke was out there.
That's where I've been the whole time.
Oh.
Oh, okay. See, I didn't realize. See, I assumed you guys left Deke to watch over her, and she
No,
was gonna...
I said a long time ago, I'm staying with her to watch over because Deke was worried
Okay.
about it.
Okay, sorry. I would have probably cut back to you before now.
Oh, no
if
worries.
I realized, but yeah, okay. So let's do that now. So while all that's going on, were you doing anything, or you're just kind of sitting there watching an unconscious halfling?
I would go through her pockets and make sure there's nothing fancy that she might use.
She had basically some awful rotted food in her pockets. In one, there's a live frog, and then there's also some scraps of paper with kind of just incomprehensible scribbles, all of them.
I'll pocket those. No wands, no symbols, no rings, no jewelry.
Let me just double check what else she might have. She did have. Yeah, no, didn't really have anything else on her. I will clarify too that these scraps of paper, as far as you can tell, it doesn't even really look like an unfamiliar language. It looks like scribbles. But up to
Might be meaningful to her.
Yeah.
I need any bargaining chip I can find.
You do see that she is, she is breathing, but she's unconscious. She's got kind of a big, goose egg on her forehead from the blow that hit her, and she's kind of fairly bruised and beat up. Regardless, I mean, she was in a pretty rough shape, to knock her unconscious.
I don't really know much to do about wounds, so she'll have to take her lumps and enjoy them, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
She'll have a rest. That'll be enough.
Yep. So you probably at some point hear sort of like a strange kind of like a zooming noise, and then you hear Carrot's
Dropping
voice, shouting out like, "Where are y'all?" And then as Doak comes back from where the vault is, he kind of passes you as he meets up with Carrot and brings her back through, and kind of just there's probably sort of a nod.
Who was that strange fast?
And then I says, Deke, who's kind of there with you, because I think he felt uncomfortable going back towards the vault. But he kind of just says, "Man, I can't believe you got the boss to break out the boots of speed."
Hey, I guess where her son's involved, she's willing to go a little further, perhaps. Then.
Well, yeah, that's true. So, I guess they'll sort that out. But do you have like, what are your thoughts? When this one wakes up? Like, you got her gagged. Like, are you gonna ask her questions while she's gagged, or?
I don't know a lot about magic and how it all works. I know that twiddling their fingers and speaking out loud is usually the two biggest parts.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that's all that she has to do things. Didn't seem to have any fancy things on her, so at least there's that. I don't know. I'm struggling with this a bit. She saw something that I don't know about in my own head, and that bothers me. I don't know exactly what she
Yeah,
saw.
I mean, obviously those golden locust fellas weren't the shiniest coin in the barrel. They were, looters. But
She's
seemed
not, though.
seemed like they didn't want to fight until she suddenly yelled out that they should kill you.
Yeah. And that could mean a couple of different things. Maybe she was the leader. Maybe she actually hired them to come with her. Maybe she was looking for something else. Or maybe she was hanging around because she knew they were going to encounter something. Maybe even us. I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, as far as I could tell, she just seemed crazy.
Yeah, well. Crazy is just a...
I mean, what was all that breaking of the dam stuff? I mean, it seemed like you actually, did any of that make any sense to you?
No, not at all. No. It's crazy gibberish.
If there's one thing I've learned in the last few months, it's that I kind of redefined my sense of what crazy in reality actually is. I'm living on borrowed time. I know that. I don't know what that means exactly, but if I'm on the wrong path, I'd like to know that too.
All right, well, I mean, I don't know what any of that means, but as a generality of not being sure what you're doing in life, I can relate to that.
It's like a card game. I don't know what hand she's holding, but I know it's a good one, and I want to find out. And I'm willing to ante up. I think I've got a good hand too. I just hope it's better.
All right, I don't blame you for any of that, but I mean, she seemed crazy. I don't know what you're gonna, how I don't know how you're gonna talk to her or whatever, but
Yeah.
I mean, up to you, I guess. I mean, if you need me to do anything, let me know. Otherwise, I'll kind of just try to stay out of your hair.
I'm afraid I don't know much about you, Doak, other than Deke, rather. Sorry, that your friend of Doug. What's your real name, Deke?
Well, I mean, it's Deacon.
Deacon.
Yeah, I mean, I started going. I mean, I know what you're getting at. I started going by Deacon. I think the kid looks up to me. Picked a nickname. I'm flattered by it. Honestly, I just, kids are kids.
Yeah, I get that. Names are important, though. Especially your true ones. But I don't know much about you, Deacon, other than you're a trader and you work with the Carrot and Stick. Kara and, forget her name offhand.
Well, I'll just call her Stick. She'll get mad if you call her anything else.
Yeah. I'm not sure how much I like false names.
Well, they're in on the branding thing now. That's kind of like it's the shop and them. It's a thing. It's a unit, right? Coming with a Carrot and Stick. It's a whole thing. They gave me
I
coaching
get
for how to talk about it in the town and all that.
I get that.
Oh.
But I'm not just a client. Or at least I hope I'm not just a client. I like to know people. I like to know their names. I like to know what they do.
Yeah, I get that.
What can you do? Do you have any of the fancy, and I twiddle my fingers, magic stuff?
Oh no, never had much talent as far as that goes. I tried my hand at a little bodyguarding here and there. Growing up, honestly, it just kind of lost my taste for it. I don't mind the traveling life, and obviously, sometimes you got to defend yourself or whatever. But I don't know. I found I kind of like being a little more settled. Having someplace to come back to where people glad to see you, and not go out looking for trouble all the time.
Yeah, I don't know much about that. I didn't spend a lot of time at home. Didn't really want to go back either.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's why sometimes you gotta find your own home. It doesn't have to be where you came from.
Uh, Home doesn't matter right now for me anyway. It's not going to be there eventually. If that makes any sense. You know, if I stay around them too long, I'm going to sound much like her if I'm not careful.
Well, that's what adventuring will do to you.
Yeah. Do you know anything about these golden locusts?
Well, I mean, you know, not much. I mean, they're kind of. I mean, there's a dime a dozen. It's the town Uthbishra. If I can talk, Uthbishra is full of mercenaries. It's it's kind of a freewheeling town, right? You know, you want something done, you hire someone to do it.
You think they were hired to come here?
Well, if I had to guess, they may have had a contract to come and investigate the place, perhaps to find out, somewhat like you guys did, to try to follow up on some contract went unfulfilled. Might have been, but while they're here, find it deserted. Figured, who's gonna miss it?
Yeah. Let's hope that's true. All right.
I mean, as far as I know, this did seem like it was the lot of them. It's not like there's 50 of them back in the town.
So this is the whole company?
As far as I know, I mean, I didn't know that. I haven't seen their team roster or anything, but it's
Maybe I'll look them up when I get back, just to find out. I think to find out there are others that would be upset.
Well, I know it upset Doak and all, but it's also true that you let the last two get away, they go back and tell others who did it.
Yeah.
People sore about it, they come looking for you.
Not only that, word would get out for sure that this place is abandoned. Every mercenary band worth their salt would come looking for anything.
That's probably true.
Bloodbath or worse.
So you think they're going to be able to wake everyone up in there?
If anyone can do it, they can. If Kara was here, then that probably means there's something going on.
All right. Zoom! You see the streak go by again.
She's leaving. That's probably a good sign.
Yeah, I'd say so. What?
If you don't mind, I'll watch her and you go check on the others. Let me know if there's anything I need to know.
All right. I think as he's getting up to do that, the lights go out.
Can you see?
He can see okay, but it was just kind of like, it's just startling. His eyes have to adjust and all.
Technically, that was known to happen.
He's like, all right, so yeah, that's not a problem.
Nope.
All right. So I think as he is actually just sort of starting to leave, you both hear just sort of at the edge of your hearing just a strange undercurrent of sound, just strange whispering voices, no words that you can quite make out, but you hear something. It's kind of unsettling.
I'm going to look over at the halfling.
She's not moving, but she's you definitely hear something.
Is her eyes open?
No. You can make an insight check though.
I probably can try. Oh, at 20. So that's
All right.
23.
She is not asleep. She is pretending.
All right. I guess we're going to start. Deke, you want to find the others.
All right.
And I prop her up to a sitting position.
All right.
All right.
Oh, you prop her up? Okay, hang on just a sec. First of all, I'm shifting ambiance here.
I wish I could hear it.
Yeah.
It's just in my head right now, which is creepier.
Well, I don't have like a perfect like whispers or anything, but as you move, um,
ASMR going on here.
yeah,
Right.
That's all. That's all those creepy guys really are.
yeah. As you move up adjacent to her, in order to kind of prop her up, I need you to make a wisdom saving throw.
Oh, this is gonna go badly. That is a 3.
All right. Um, those are some high rolls. Okay, you take 15 psychic damage as the whispers suddenly flare up in your head, and you feel briefly like they're just tearing your brain apart.
All right.
I had to keep her. Had to keep her.
I think as you kind of just reel back in shock, like holding your head, you realize her eyes are definitely open now, and she's just looking at you. She didn't move. She just opened her eyes.
I kept you alive. Don't make me regret it.
She just stares at you, and you still kind of hear the whispers quiet. Still, she's just staring at you.
Fine. I get another handkerchief and I bind her eyes.
Okay. Well, as you start to move closer again, I need another wisdom saving throw.
That was a 5.
All right, that's another 3d6. Okay, that was a 6, and a 4, so that's that's another 16 psychic damage. And I think at this point, Deke's going to say,
Yeah, go fetch the others.
yeah, okay.
I wanted to be nice, old lady. And I grab a handful of dirt and throw it in her face.
Okay.
Specific eyes.
Yeah, she closes her eyes against it.
And at that point, I'm going to try to bind her eyes. See if that works.
So technically, what I'm just going to describe for you so that you have an understanding somewhat of the mechanic here is that it feels like the closer you get to her, the louder these whispers are.
Yeah, I know my assumption's wrong. I have wisdom of a lot lower than I should.
All right. As you start to move closer again, go ahead and make another wisdom saving throw.
That was a 4.
Huh?
That was a 4.
Okay.
What is your intelligence score, though? Like,
My intelligence is high. My wisdom is low.
All right. Well, that time it was only 4 psychic damage. And I think at this point, once you do that again, she kind of smiles and says, "Typical." All right, yeah. Typical. So she mutters something, but you can kind of see just the hint of a mad grin in her, wide eyes that she still are kind of like red now from like the dust that you threw in there.
All right. We do this the hard way. You'll remember this, that you forced me to do this the hard way. And I move back so I don't feel this influence anymore. Mm-hmm. And I find a good fist-sized rock.
All right.
And I pelt her with a good fist-sized rock.
All right. Go ahead and make an attack.
She is bound.
She is restrained, so it's with advantage.
Advantage?
Yep.
What is my to hit with that? Let's see. Unarmed strike. No, I guess it's melee.
Well, are you throwing it? Yeah, I mean,
I am throwing it, so.
Yeah, then that would be ranged, so it's dex based.
Dex based?
Yeah.
That is a 17 to hit.
Yeah, that hits.
All right.
Yeah, she's out again, unconscious.
Okay. I approach cautiously and see if that field of negative, whatever the hell the crap was, still
Yeah,
affects it.
you can kind of still hear it, but it's definitely faded. It doesn't rise to be painful anymore.
And now I bind her eyes.
All right.
I saw her nose twitch. I have to bind it too.
All right.
All right. and I'm going to sit back. The distance I'm going to sit back is the comfortable distance I felt that no effect was happening. And sit back down. It was intended to be non-lethal. I don't think it makes a difference in this case.
Not with ranged. You can't choose non-lethal when
Is she
with ranged.
bleeding out?
Yeah. Well, she is making death saving throws.
Well, I'll see if I can do anything about that.
All right.
Can I try to stabilize her?
You can make a medicine check.
Yeah, that's not good. That is an 8.
All right. Well, just so happens you're lucky she stabilized anyway.
Damn it! I was hoping we were gonna just get out of that.
Throw the bloody cloth back at her and go back to my perch and wait.
Yeah. So I think probably by this time everybody else, you guys were over by the, the door, and the light had gone out, and you kind of had just finished dealing with all that, and then Deke comes, like running over and just says,
Alaric is sort of sitting cross-legged, looking kind
you're-
of angry in the direction
yeah,
of
your
of
dwarf
the
friend and the halfling, you guys should probably come over here. Something's kind of, I don't know.
Now what?
Yeah.
All right.
So
Seems to be true.
as you guys come back over, Alaric is kind of sitting, staring at her, angry, but she seems to be unconscious, but with a new wound on her forehead, and
Mom,
now
what
with a rag around her eyes as well.
You get any information out of her?
only whispers, and they just sort of hurt. She's a dangerous one, I'll grant you.
She's
that.
bonkers. Why? I don't like at this point.
I think
Still
Amethyst
knows.
will ask if you feel like you need some healing.
I've definitely felt better. She should probably get tended to as well if she can. Just be careful about waking her up.
I'm actually just looking
I'm
at.
not going near her. This is your mess.
Actually, Amethyst can't. She's oh wait, she the only healing spell she has prepared right now is mass cure wounds. So, does everyone want some? I think she
I
can.
can. I can use a
I
little
don't think
bit.
I got. No,
But-
I did get hit a little bit.
She'll offer to. She can use mass cure wounds at 6th level.
Do we have any healing potions left?
Oh, I've already used all of my lay on hands.
Yeah.
Ba-dum-bum.
I'm going to use healing word on Alaric begrudgingly,
All right.
so you're aware.
I mean, he did take almost 30. What, like 31 or 32?
35 points. of
35
damage.
points. Yeah.
for being stupid.
I wouldn't be the first time. Hopefully. Won't be the last, I can guarantee you that.
Because I'm like at this point, like I don't have. Well, I mean, I do, but
Yeah.
yeah. So I'm just using healing word on Alaric. That
I
is,
figure it's a particularly angry word.
and that is a you get 5
Okay. Well, it's 5 more than I had a moment ago.
and a dirty look.
Best cleric ever.
I just realized my ambiance wasn't looping, but I'm not
Look,
hearing it
I
now.
know that she's crazy, or at least she's acting pretty crazy, and that's effective enough to fool you. But she still knows something.
She's probably what did I say last time? Fade touched,
Maybe,
not fade touched. Fissure touched.
but that didn't mean
Fissure
that you
pated.
were actually filled with information. Hell, you're Fisher touched for that matter.
Yeah, but I'm not bonkers. Well,
If someone wants to, I think Amethyst has got a significant medicine check, so I think she'll make a check just to kind of get a sense of like how wounded is this halfling. Like she's not touching her, but just kind of trying to assess her condition. And she gets 22 and says, I think if we don't heal her, she's going to be out for a while.
Do you have any of those good berries?
They only heal 1 point, and you have to be able to swallow it.
Well, shove it in her mouth and put the gag back on. Go swallow.
I think she hands you the good berry.
Fine, I'll do it. And I will approach her, and you do see some trepidation and also a lot of stubbornness.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll go forward very quickly, kind of pull the gag back, shove the good bear in your mouth, maybe press her jaw
Mm-hmm.
a bit, see if it swallows.
All right.
Uh, Anybody got any water?
You sort of see her mouth kind of twitch a little bit
Put the
as
gag
you're
back
moving
in.
her. And hmm.
I'll
Okay,
put the
gag back on. Are you
in.
backing off?
Yeah.
Yeah. She kind of. You see her swallow and then kind of sort of struggle again, like briefly, just sort of like she's trying to stretch against her bonds a little bit, but it's more of like a stiff body stretch as opposed to struggling.
Now, can any of you do the fancy magic thing of looking into her head?
Yeah.
I know it's going to be looking into a tornado, but there's
Yeah.
still a house spinning around the middle of a tornado.
She does look like she's she's still pretty hurt like before, but you all now hear just kind of at the periphery of your hearings just this sound of
If you hear any of that whispering, back off. Get something I can. How does she do that? I thought if you had your hands bound, your mouth covered, hell, your eyes covered, you wouldn't be able to do stuff like that.
There are exceptions.
Great. What do you do with an exception
Yeah.
like that?
With the gag,
Kill it. You kill it.
You
That's
see
what
her
you do.
laying there over on the ground.
Laugh it up, grandmother.
This is your mess, man. I can't help you.
Maybe we can help her. You ever think of that? Maybe she's just a victim.
The only thing she wants is for us dead. That's it. That's all she wants.
I don't know about that. I doubt that she came here to kill us.
I
I
think
don't know
Doak
why
will say she seemed like just before she yelled to kill you guys, she seemed surprised. She was just talking crazy before that, but then she was looking in your thoughts or something, Alaric, and then she suddenly yelled to kill you. It was like she was surprised by something.
Right. What the hell did she find there? I want to know.
Well, I don't know that, but I know you guys have got some sort of crazy secrets.
Crazy is probably the right word for it.
I already used my magic ring of truthiness anyway, so I couldn't do it even if I wanted to.
I don't know if Detect Thoughts is a druid spell, but she doesn't have it prepared today, at least.
I don't think it is.
Yeah, I don't have anything like that.
Right. Well, did you guys have any better luck than this?
Well, we think we got the magic circle dispelled. Carrot was here, and
Yeah, I think I saw
Did
her
a thing?
briefly.
it's a waiting game now. She said they should come around slowly,
That's good.
but they should come around. Yeah.
Well, that's really good.
All together instead of over weeks.
Garrett's pretty powerful.
Doak says, yeah, I mean, she really knows her stuff. She doesn't, she doesn't, have magic the way I do, but she really knows what she's talking about. Like, she's done a lot of studying, and she knows all about, she's obviously has access to lots of different items and everything. And she knows what to do with them. She's just really smart that way.
Your mother wouldn't have some kind of cuffs or braces that might stop her from doing all this whispering, would you?
Well, I know that those boots only work a couple of times in a day. I don't think she's going to be coming back out today.
No, but we aren't necessarily going anywhere today anyway.
I mean,
I'm assuming we're going to stick around and wait for them to wake up.
well, hang on. And he sort of peers over at her. I'm going to have him do, actually, he can cast Identify once per day, which I think you can actually cast not just on an object, but Let's see, if you
cast it in person
touch a
for spell.
creature throughout the casting, you can learn what spells, if any, are currently affecting it. And I think he's going to say, I'm going to try something. He's going to get up close. And first, he's going to make a wisdom saving throw, as he
Be
does.
careful. She whispers into
To
your
say,
head.
stay within 10 feet of me.
Yeah. Okay, so you're moving up to, so he can stay within 10
Yeah.
feet of you. What's the bonus for
Yeah.
that?
+4.
Okay. Oh, yeah. With the +4, that's a 22. So he...
He's a lot wiser than I
Yeah,
am.
you can see him kind of straining a little bit, but he kind of reaches and he sort of just touches her on the shoulder. And he has kind of stands there just for a little bit, sort of feeling, and face kind of. Okay, and he's like backs way off and is like, "Whew, okay, that's crazy, but it's not a spell exactly, but it's like an aura around her. Just like if you get too close, it just happens. She's I don't think she's even really doing anything. It just
Like Calcifa with the charm.
yeah. So like she's not doing something. It's just something about her just gives off that aura. If you
Well,
get
that
too
would
close.
certainly- That would certainly make you alienated anybody you knew. Everybody just started going crazy around you.
Well, during the fight, you got up and okay, when she was unconscious, it wasn't happening,
No.
and it seemed like it was because he points to Otterkey. You paralyzed her during the fight, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe it wasn't happening then either. So maybe she does have to sort of like be, I don't know, conscious of it or something like that. But like I said, it's not like a spell that we could cancel. It's just something. I don't. She might have to be conscious for it though.
Right.
But I don't think it has anything. It's not like anything to do with like words or her eyes or anything like that. It's just all around her.
Well, I know what I'm going to use the pikes for now.
I think Doke's eyes kind of go wide. What?
Holding her at a distance when we walk out of here.
Oh, okay.
What'd you think I was going to use them for?
I don't know.
Well, I can't get too close to her.
Yeah.
But if I can bind her up with the pikes, we might be able to lead
Well-
her.
Where are you gonna bring her? Like, if you want to talk to her, we can't talk to her with her mouth gagged.
Yeah, but she'd be able to cast spells or something then, right? If her mouth was free.
Well, some like, I don't know exactly how her magic works, but like it's a little like, for example, like I can do this. And you actually watch as he kind of like he just puts his hands down at his side and he just sort of focuses for a little bit, but he doesn't say anything. He doesn't move his hands, and you see that same like Maximilian's earthen grasp, that stone hand come up out of the floor, and sort of reach around and then retreat again. And he kind of just looks up at you and says, I can't do that all day, but like I can kind of focus and do it without the hand gestures sometimes if I need to, but I don't know if it's like that for her or. She's
would've
not
thought
doing anything right now, just laying there.
I would have thought you tried that earlier, though, if she could do that.
Yeah, well, that's probably true. I don't even know what she wants right now. Like she's just laughing or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
I gotta be honest that it is taking all of my willpower not to just sacred flame this situation and put everyone out of their misery.
I don't know if everybody would put out of their misery. Is there anyone in East Bethra you might think who would be able to help with this? I don't want to bring your moms into this.
I don't know. She's like, Like I got a sense of like this aura, like kind of how it works because that's what my spell does, but I've never
But
seen anything
who,
like it before.
who is she? If she's that powerful, how could no one know anything about? Somebody must know something
Well,
about
there's not even really that many halflings around this part of the world. I mean, there's some,
her.
but like not a lot.
Right.
I don't know if she's from around. I mean, she's old. She may. Who knows where she's from?
Right. From what Deke was saying, there aren't that many of the golden locusts, so
Over there, in her bindings, you hear the woman obviously trying to talk, but gags like, "Well, I could tell you all the sights you've seen. That is when there's the breaking of the dam, it will tell all of you."
yeah. If I pull that gag and you pull any funny business, you realize that's going to be the last thing you do, right?
And she kind of sort of shrugs in her binding.
Why are you being so annoying? um, Everybody stand back, but be ready.
I'm standing way back. About 50 feet back.
And calm your whispers, old woman, if you want this to work.
And then she kind of, I guess she's not even really looking at you because her eyes are still covered. But you see her sort of, go rigid a little bit for a while, and then the sound of the whispers does actually subside.
All right. I'm going to come and remove your gag. Again, any funny business, and it's going to be your last motion. I don't want to kill you, but if I have to, just like your companions, you would end up on a pyre. And I'll walk forward.
All right.
And if nothing seems to interfere with me, or the whispers aren't bothering me,
No, like you can you feel like you can still sort of sense it, but it's almost more just like an after image when you looked too close to the sun or something. It just sort of, you can almost just like feel where they were, which is almost like still hearing it, but it's not painful, but like before.
there's a lump on the inside of my skull, which is still pulsing.
Yeah.
I pull the gag.
Okay. She kind of, spits out, like a little bit of grit and sort of like kind of, like hawks a loogie kind of over to one side and then, yes, that's better. I don't get my camera to refocus for some reason.
With the old lady motor,
Yeah.
blurry. That's
Got it. The autofocus gets confused sometimes. But she
sure.
kind of just says,
It's not magic at all.
yes, that's better.
Now let's start with your name, old woman.
Grantha, not that it matters.
Why doesn't it matter?
Why would it matter?
I like to know who I'm talking to.
Grantha.
All right, Grantham. You said you saw something, and you definitely reacted. What did you see?
What haven't I seen? I have seen things that would break your mind. I have seen things that would end the world and will with the breaking of the dam.
All right, let's talk about this breaking of the dam. What is that? What do you mean?
But I saw it.
Okay, just pretend, as most people usually come around to, that I'm pretty much as dumb as a post. And my friends haven't seen in the inside of my skull, and I've had a hard time describing it to them.
The first signs have begun to appear. They appear in the form of tears in space.
Mm-hmm.
Purple light glows. The energy from the far realm entering, poisoning. And yet, it is only the first minor tremors of the cataclysm to come.
Okay, now we're getting somewhere. What's the next step that you've seen?
Fae. It is not something you could comprehend.
You know,
No
when I
one
said I
could.
when I said it was them just a moment ago, just notch me up a one notch on that one and give it a try.
The things I have seen cannot be comprehended by creatures of our kind, in our mortal realm, in our space, in our universe. They are different from us as anything could be, and our brains could not wrap themselves around it any more than a stone could become a bird and fly.
Well, that probably is going to happen at some point, but let's put that on pause for a moment. So, which is it then, the Fae or the demons?
The squabbling of creatures within our physical realm is but a distraction. It is the play that is carried out on the stage in front of the cracking of the dam. And when the dam breaks, all will be washed away.
Okay, see, now we're getting somewhere. Thank you. All right. So the Fae, the demons, all that stuff in the mortal plane, that's the distraction. Who's behind the real play then?
They are not a who.
What?
They are what we are not. And they hunger. Just as a dish of food dropped on the floor. You may pick up the plate. You may pick up the food. But the scent has been released. Blood in the water. It cannot be taken back. And now, the energy from beyond seeks to make our world theirs. They squeeze and squeeze until all shatters. And you who would seek to prevent this shattering, do nothing but draw the energy to squeeze tighter.
Okay.
You
Where do you stand on all that? Are you going to be squeezed?
It is not a choice for any of us to make. It is inevitable. But you and your foolish companions, in attempting to stop it from happening, you accelerate the process. That is why I ordered the soldiers to destroy you, and now all is that is all revealed as just as much foolishness as your own plan. The energy will come. The dam will break. It is foolhardy for any of us to think that we can change the outcome.
That scares you.
To be frightened suggests an action, a reaction, trained by a mortal creature to guide it towards a course of action which might protect it. What point is fear for something that is inevitable?
But you were afraid. That's why you ordered the soldiers to fight, because you were afraid that we would actually accelerate this process.
I was like you once. I remember. Sometimes I still feel it.
Like me in what way? With
The
hope?
fear. The anger.
Hold on to that part of you. Keeps you alive.
I shall live so long as I live. But living until the breaking of the dam is no mercy.
I'm not so sure about that. I'm working on an awful lot of mercy right now. My friends aren't quite so convinced. They might want to grant you that mercy, and I'm trying to hold them back for a moment. We can have a civilized conversation.
That's not what we are doing.
Isn't that our way? So far, you've told me a great deal, couched in a lot of exaggeration that is difficult to interpret. But you,
Believe that I exaggerate if you like.
well, I happen to know the end of the world is coming. That part is actually something I've known for, gosh, a few months now, I suppose.
I think at this point, Doak off to the side is like, wait, what?
All right. It's all right. But the interesting thing about the end of this world is the return to the way the world should actually be.
Don't you see? It is an egg. The universe and all its planes, the 9 hells, the pandemonium, Mechanus, all of the planes that we know are an egg. The shell is cracked, and even if it were resealed, the scent has still been detected from outside. And it cannot be taken back.
Taking things back is a very interesting phrase to use here. In order for something to happen, time has to pass. In order for something to take back. And I kind of look over at Nirkina, Otterkey, Amethyst. Time has to reset. I think I'm okay with that. I won't be having any fear from that particular problem. What about yourself? How do you make yourself useful for the rest of your life?
All right, wait, are you asking the halfling again? I lost.
I'm asking the halfling.
Okay. I exist. What more could I do in the face of such things?
You could live until you die. That was what a bard told me once in a very, very terrible, expensive, and pretty shitty bar. But the words were good. It was a pretty good song, too. Live until you die. Because if you don't, you're already dead.
What
That'd be
choice
my-
do any of us have in that?
Well, you seem to have given up. That seems...
I've not
Kind of
given up.
pathetic.
I simply understand reality in a way I could never go back to know it, not knowing.
So
My
what?
brain, my entire being has been fundamentally altered. I
So what?
cannot.
That happens every single day.
I'm not sure what you think it is that I am doing. I am existing. I am living with the knowledge that I have.
Mm-hmm.
What is it that you are proposing that I should do differently?
Have some real joy. That is the only thing any of us can really do in a short period of time we have on the world.
Joy.
You must remember joy. You were a young child once. It was easy back then to have joy. Now it's harder. I get it. You know things you wish you didn't know. You think the world is inevitably dying. In fact, you can see it before your eyes. So you've forgotten how to have real joy. Joy which doesn't bring harm. Joy which doesn't take what others have, but joy simply in the simple things. Whether it be having a beer, whether it be singing a song, whether it be staring at a flower, you can still find joy.
Make a
Try.
persuasion check.
Okay. Okay. I wish I had inspiration. Every roll gives me a heartbeat. That is a 19.
Wow. As you gave that speech, you see a little bit of a break in this just sort of manic glare on her face. her eyes kind of start darting around a little bit, like the rictus grin on her of her mouth just kind of fades a little bit. She just says, I remember Joy. I knew it once. But how could it ever be? No.
It can happen again.
No.
I was stuck in a hole with a murderer for 4 years. When I got out, I have joy. Simply changing that. I don't know what kind of hole you're trapped in, but there is a way out.
The hole is inside me. The hole in space. The energy from beyond the shell has penetrated my mind.
Fight it. You've shown me how strong you are. Fight it.
You start to hear the whispers sort of starting to like rise again.
I'm gonna grab her by the shoulders and try to physically persuade her to fight it.
She, you kind of shake her back up a little bit, and then she's just kind of looks up at you, and like just for a second, you see her eyes are like clear and afraid.
Hello, Grantha. It's nice to finally meet you. You can do it.
No, you don't understand.
You're strong enough.
It's not a matter of strength. It's
Find a way.
No, you see,
Take the blind.
it's too powerful.
No.
I'd been kind of role playing like she could see.
Yeah, no,
yeah.
I kind of thought, well, we've probably seen her eyes by
Yeah.
now. I would have wanted to anyway.
I think like she maybe shook it off at some point, but
I think I said I stare her in the eyes, so
Yeah.
kind of had to.
well, I think she's just kind of shaking, and it's just like, you see,
Hard.
I've made
I know.
I made a pact. It's a pact. It's binding. It cannot be broken. Cannot be broken. My magic comes from it. There's no choice. It
Let
is.
go of it. Let go of the pact. Let go of the magic. Find another way.
It's not within my power to do so.
Leave
I
the
shall
power
see
behind.
you again. And as you watch, all of a sudden, from beneath her, this harsh, glowing, blinding white light seems to open underneath her, and she drops through it. It
Can I grab
disappears, and her ropes are left behind. You end up with the ropes in your hand, and she disappears.
I almost met Grantha. Maybe for a brief instant I did. So, I'll stand up, kind of dust myself off, turn to the rest. There's another player at the table. We haven't met yet. A big one. Doak.
He's looking really spooked right now.
You've seen a bit of the problem that we're dealing with. Maybe you understand a little bit more why we are limited in what we say.
Yeah, I really thought I wanted to know, but
Yeah, I know.
I'm not sure I feel better now.
Maybe you understand, which I'm sorry for.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we can go into some lot of detail and really.
So, just so you guys know, I did recognize that spell that just happened there. That's a Dimension Door spell. She is still somewhere within 500 feet of us right now.
Really? Damn it.
Yeah. But yeah,
She'll
that
be
was,
right.
I know that spell, but,
It's all right. We can let her go. She's got a lot to think about, and she's got her own, well, maybe literally demons to fight.
Yeah.
I have a feeling we have not seen the last of her, but I don't know if we're necessarily on the opposite side.
We're gonna have another hobgoblin army to deal with, aren't we?
Yeah, you deal with one. What's another?
Nah, demon army.
It was a metaphorical hobgoblin army.
Okay.
Maybe literal, eventually. So, what's for supper? I don't know about you, but I'm famished. I've got
and
a
I-
hell of
I
a
think,
headache. I'll drink away.
I think Doak kind of raises his hand and says, "Well, you know, it's a walk, but I could go for some home cooking back in my own house right now."
Is it all right to leave? Are the giants actually here? I haven't really noticed them.
Well, so no, I mean, essentially, I think you know, Doak could probably explain that the with the magic circle dispelled, it's going to be a slower process of depetrification for the others that were in there because it's not like the Greater Restoration that kind of does it all at once. But it should be essentially taking place over the next few hours.
All right.
I'd like to point out that she offered a reward,
Oh, well, that's nice of her.
which we have yet to receive. And not that, I want to be greedy or anything, but we got a long road ahead of us. And
I'd like
Yeah.
to meet her at least once before I go.
I would kind of like to make sure they all start coming around.
So you guys go back, you know, back into, you know, towards the vault.
How are we going to get in?
Yeah,
It's open.
it's open now.
Oh,
She
They
hit
had
a thing.
there was
and
a lever inside. Yeah,
she
There
did a
was a
thing, and it did the thing.
there
Yeah.
was
So.
a thing?
There was-
it was a
yeah.
thing.
All
there
this
was a
time?
thing.
All this
Yeah.
time there was a thing.
Oh,
Yeah.
Opened right up.
why didn't we have the thing?
All right, so I'm. There we go. All right. I think. Okay. So the are you're heading back in there then?
Sounds like
Yeah.
I think what you see is that, you know, the cleric is in there, and she seems to be kind of, you know, going from one to, you know, the other, just kind of checking each, and you can see that the color is starting to come back to several of them. They're not, you know, they're not moving around or anything yet. But you also just feel that with this magic circle gone, there was just this stale aura in the room, just feeling, you know, just uncomfortable, like it made the, you know, the hair on the back of your neck stand up, and it's just gone. And you see the cleric is kind of attending to the various others, and just looks over to you and says, I do believe it's working.
Yeah, this place is a whole lot better without that green stain on the floor.
Yes, even if it is somewhat changed from its previous configuration, the Thane's throne smashed the statue in a different position.
You're a whole lot taller than I expected.
She kind of just like looks over at the rest of you and over to Granis, just says,
Grannis is kind of hunched over, so
Yeah.
she was a bit
Yeah.
shorter. And the other one never really stood up, so.
hmm.
You must be the stone cleric.
We never did ask your name.
I just go by cleric. It's my title and it's my identity.
Well, that's kind of funny. You don't have an actual name of any kind?
I did. But cleric is what I think of myself as.
But what if there were like two of you? How would you know which one they were asking for?
Why would there be two of me?
There's only ever one?
I have my apprentices.
Oh.
And when my time has come, one of them will become the cleric.
Huh. Well, that's funny.
If you like.
I mean, it just feels weird calling you cleric, but nice to meet you, cleric.
Nice to meet you.
Alaric. That's my name, not a
Alaric.
title.
I could call you dwarf.
Yeah, but if there were two sitting side by side, one of us would have to tug the beard for the other one to dwarf.
He has a thing about names.
I like names. Are people
Um,
waking up okay? Did it work?
it seems so. It will be a slow process compared to my more immediate waking, but I believe that there is reason to believe that they will recover fully. And once they do, as a community, we will have a lot to discuss.
Well, our companion, Doak, here, I think he'd really like to get home. If there's anything else you need of us before we go.
I promised a reward, and I believe you are owed it. The payment for the delivery, I have made arrangements with Carrot, but I do have additional treasures that I will offer you the choice of. We have platinum, if that would be your wish. We also have a very valuable gem, a diamond worth 1,500 gold.
Seems terribly specific.
Well, you see, they are used for specific spell components. It's important to have them appropriately assessed. And
You know,
It's a thing.
Such as resurrecting companions who have passed on.
You know, if we were able to corner the diamond market, we could really, drive that price up and then have smaller diamonds.
Right.
If you excuse me, I did forget something here, and I go over and pick up the I forget what it was called. It was a talisman or an offering that I brought in and presented to to Calcifa.
Yeah.
And I left it there, so I'm going to go take that now.
And you offer it to her?
Well, I'm just going to pick it up for now.
Okay.
And then,
All right. So it's just on the note of spell components. I'll also just briefly add, not that it changes anything. Greater Restoration technically is supposed to cost 100 gold worth of diamond dust, but yeah. Anyway, what she says though is that she also has a rapier, which is currently sized for a giant, but would resize itself if one of you were to use it, and it warns the user of impending danger.
Ooh,
There's also a
handy.
mirror that allows the use of the scrying spell. However, unlike a standard scrying, it creates a two-way communication.
I don't know. For me, it's a toss-up between that rapier and the mirror. Archie, you have thoughts?
Well, me, I think it's cash.
That mirror could be extremely useful if we get into trouble.
Very true.
And that rapier would tell us if we're going to be getting into trouble.
So if you wanted cash, you'd basically be getting the equivalent of the 1,500 gold pieces, so it'd be 150 platinum.
And while they mull it over, cleric, when dealing with Calcifa and that big hunk of stone over there, I had a notion that I might be able to, make an offering to the spirit, but it didn't seem to really. I don't really know much about spirits, so I think I told the wrong person. I don't know if it's to you I could make such an offering or something, but I was sent with these stones from the spirit of my home to make connections through the world. And I think a connection to this place would suit us nicely. Not that we'd gain anything tangible like a trade route or anything. Those are negotiated far differently. I think this is more a symbolic bonding of stone.
It is true that in other parts of the world, spirits are worshipped with rituals, honored in traditional rites. This is not typically how we coexist with spirits in this part of the world. However, at its heart, the intent is the same. It is to find an inner relationship with the spirits and the spiritual energy that surround us. And you are correct that Calcifer is not, especially given the light of her actions, the individual who would understand this. And although I do not have a ritual that I would perform to offer this connection to our spirit, especially given some of the questions that we must answer about our spirit, but I will take it, and I will ensure that it is placed in a place of respect.
I appreciate that. And who knows? Yeah, it's a long way from here, but maybe I'll send word to the Copperbeard clan that they might find a friend here.
She leans way down to accept it.
It's probably just like a pebble to her. But
Kind of just, yeah, it's like the size of a pea in her hand.
yeah, perspective tricks going on the camera right now.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
we blew all the budget on this one friggin' scene.
You place it in her hand, and she kind of closes her eyes a little bit and says, "Ah, Haraz."
Yeah. Yeah, that's his name. Its name.
I will see that this is placed in a location where it will be honored and respected.
Appreciate
Thank you,
that.
Alaric. Have the rest of you decided?
What do you think, Archie?
No, I'm good with whatever you think's going to be the most useful.
What do you think, Amethyst? What would Amethyst say?
I think she would probably make a crack about how you guys obviously want swords because you like stabbing people so much. I mean, just at a guess, I think.
I think the mirror. I think the mirror could make.
Yeah, I was
maybe.
like, she might shrug, but I think Doak might sort of just suggest. I mean, the mirror seems like it's the most interesting.
And we certainly have the biggest need for communication lately.
Also true. All right. I think that's our choice then. The mirror.
Very well. And she goes and on sort of the back far wall, you see it feels like an optical illusion somehow because she somehow seems to walk into a hallway that's not there. And it's not quite like she goes through the wall. It's just like somehow there's an opening and then there isn't. And then there's an opening again and she comes out and there's no opening again anymore. It's a little hard to understand what you just saw. You get the feeling your eyes are being tricked somehow. But she comes out and she is holding basically a giant-sized hand mirror. And then she kind of holds it, lowers it down to you, and it's like 3 feet long. And she says, if you concentrate on it for a moment, it will become more suitable for your use. Who's taking it?
Um, I guess me.
All right.
Ah,
I will make up the thing in D&D Beyond for you, but the short version is that it lets you cast scrying once per day, but with the modification that the whatever communication that you're getting, it's like whatever you are getting, the target is, if you cast it on a person, the target is getting the same information back from you.
nice.
Which could be useful if you want it, but also makes it potentially less useful if you are trying to scry on an enemy that you wouldn't want to know where you are, for example.
Right.
But yes, so it as you hold it for a moment and just kind of focus on it, you find it kind of shrinking down, and it's actually sort of, once you can sort of appreciate it, it's lovely, kind of it's silver, but with sort of a strange little rainbow pearlescent glimmer to it. Almost a little bit like oil on the water, but on the silver of it. And then the mirror just seems like a mirror, but you can sense holding it that it becomes not just a regular mirror when you would activate it.
Thank you. This is beautiful.
I hope that you will find a use for it, and that it will aid you in your journey. If you are to help others the way you have helped us, I hope that this will come in useful.
I hope we can help others.
So I think as you guys say your goodbyes, Granis is staying behind. She's staying at the city to help. But I think as you guys are leaving, she does kind of say, you can come back and visit me. I'll be here.
Are you kidding? We're going to be one of those recurring dreams. Probably the best figments of your imagination you've ever met, I imagine.
I like that.
Thank you, Granus.
Thank all of you. I was just sitting, throwing rocks around and crying before you came, and now my people are saved.
You were in a bad spot, and, well, they dug you out of it. It's kind of what they do.
Very happy we could help.
All right. So as you guys are kind of making your way out, we'll kind of, we'll go ahead and montage a little bit. You're making your way, back out.
What's your mother going to make for supper?
Yeah. So you're making your way out of the big cavern. Granis offers to run that first elevator for you down onto the plateau, just so you can kind of see how it works. And
Nice.
it's you get the feeling that maybe she's not used to being the one to do it, so it's a little bit wobbly as opposed to being super smooth, but it's it's easier than going down the whole ramp. But then you've got the big sort of farming plateau. Make your way across that. Doak makes a point of putting the lantern back on the table where you guys found it, and you make your way down the ramp, back down to the sort of ground level, and it's off again, through those the waves of the golden tall grass, and you're on the road on the way back, when all of a sudden you hear kind of a rustling sound approaching in the grass.
Now what?
From where?
Kind of off, 2:00. It seems like it's heading your way, and Doak's kind of on guard and just says, there's animals that live in the grass. I mean, it might be okay, but just, let's pay attention. And he says, yeah, there's all sorts of things that, live in the grass. So it's, there's some of them are harmless and others. And then what comes out of the grass is, it takes you a second. There's a little bit of, you have to kind of blink and make sure you're seeing what you're seeing, because it looks like a rabbit, but like 2.5 feet tall. In terms of like head to tail. So pretty big for a rabbit. And it has what looks like a unicorn horn on it. And around this single spiraling horn in the middle of its head, you see a little piece of paper tied around it. And Doak kind of points at it and says, "That I've never seen before."
You got a funny kind of mail system around here.
That's a very Melican thing to do.
Kind of is, but
Maybe.
she try to hit us with a rock.
I think Amethyst probably is going to kind of go ahead and approach it.
Yeah.
And she leans down and it kind of nudges up to her and actually kind of cuddles up against her leg as she's removing the little note. And as she looks at it, she kind of reads it sort of concerned at first, but then kind of chuckles and reads it to the rest of you. "Remember, knuckleheads, the shell game isn't about the shells, it's about the pea. Doesn't matter what happens to the shells long as you got the pea. 'Cause the pea is never really under the shells, is it?"
And I really got to pee now.
Wait. Is that who I think it is?
It's not
It's
signed,
gotta
but
be.
I think that's where we'll close it for tonight.
Mugen Mail.
Yep. So there's actually I can let's see if I can easily show you this
Bunny
picture.
corn.
Yeah, there's this is an actual D&D creature. I can show you guys a picture of here in a second. If I can actually get it to load up. Oh, I can't. It's getting a
Well, Smarty Master is very excited about Mugen Mail.
All right. Yeah, I'm gonna put this picture on in just a second. Yep, but yes, Mugen seems to be the likely source. Oh, that's
Aw,
It's so cute.
adorable.
Yep.
Rebicorn.
So, what will happen next for the Heroes of Legend? But we'll have to find out next time on So
Many levels.
All right, thank you everybody in the chat, and thank you guys, my players. I love playing with you, and that's it. So I said the sign off already, so now I'm actually turning off the stream. Okay, bye.